Alright, much better. Alright, and keep my hand out of my face. This will be a short. Let's give you a short introduction to the B9 organ machine that I've had for about a week and a half, and I have thoroughly enjoyed. This thing is a beast of burden. It will really fill out your sound. I've enjoyed it in a way that I haven't seen posted on YouTube. That's why I wanted to do a short demo just to see exactly let you see exactly how I was using it. And I'm not going to really demo as much as I'm going to talk about how this thing works. What I found is that without a guitar sound at all, it works really well, and it seems to track fairly well, especially in certain ranges. I've heard other people say it works best above the 12th fret. It doesn't really track the E string, the low E string, as well as you might like, but even a single note on just the first setting, fat and full, which gives you an octave above and an octave below, gives you a real full, interesting sound. You start layering notes upon that, the idea. It doesn't seem to track really complex chords with extensions and things like that, but the meat of the chord it seems to pick up really well. And even though it has a dry and organ volume knobs, that works only when it's connected via the organ outlet to one amplifier. It has a split option to it that I like much better. What I was able to do was use it in a band setting, and there's another YouTube video out there, I think his name's Mike Relf, where he demonstrates really well how it can be used in a band setting. But I've actually used it with just one guitar and had the organ over here, and what I found is when it doesn't track really well, you still get the fullness of the guitar amplifier and whatever effects and sounds, delays and choruses and flanges you might have coming through that will stand out on their own because you don't have this thing cutting through. And this is basically, you know, how I used it. There were a couple of things. Continental's really good and seems to track really well in the higher registers, but the fat and full just seems like the all-purpose setting. Seems to work really well for everything, and you can use it for a lot of different things. And if you know, if you do get off, when it gets off into some of that stuff, when it starts missing, like if you're up on the especially on like a rock and roll setting, it's not as loud, doesn't cut as much, so when you get up there and you start playing, you don't hear it as much. Even with the Continental, I used it for a couple of different things. It seems to lack a little bit. You can add a little guitar to that. You get to where you can hear that cut through. Not enough of it. You can kind of hear where that thing doesn't track. You'll still hear the guitar really well, even though all of a sudden this thing's tracking better than it usually does. One of the things I found that works really well with it too is a compressor pedal. Saw that mentioned in their manual about, you know, attenuating that signal above and kind of raising that signal below. It really does kind of make it, because this thing does work best with chunky, choppy. That up really well when you're really banging away on the strings. Playing some of the quieter stuff, it may not track as well, and that's why I wanted to talk about just splitting the signal and having one. I'm running a tube amp clean for my for my organ signal, and then I've got my little Black Star sitting here on the table that, you know, has some added distortion and gain and a bunch of other effects to where I get that really dirty, grungy filthy guitar sound that I like coming out of one ear, and then I get this underlying tone of this great big, you know, fat B Hammond organ on the other, and that does seem to work really well. There's got to be a ton of other songs too. You could use this song. We talked, you know, thought about Highway Star, you know. There's got to be a ton of other things you could use this for. I mean, this thing is just a great. Whatever. There's got to be a ton of other things that you could do with this. So feel free to comment below. Tell me what you think. If you're thinking about buying one of these, buy one. This is literally hours and hours of fun. It's worth every penny. I'd buy two. They're like hard to find. I had to wait a month to get mine. Alright, that's it. Thanks.